Hi everybody, this is Kent Langley with Digitized.live. I'm recording a special episode for you about what it takes for a speaker to present live. I've been doing this for a little while now, and I thought, well, rather than write them down, why don't I do this recording? Without further ado, we're going to go over 7 tips today. That's 7. So 7 tips. These are things that you're going to want to think about. Maybe go through the checklist before you start talking on a live presentation. The first tip that we're going to go over today is stand up. You may notice as I'm sitting here that I might seem a little bit mechanical. Why? Well, I've got a chair attached to my backside and I'm sitting here, and so most of me can't move naturally or normally. I can still move my arms around and I can look into the camera, I can sort of wave a bit, but it is so much better to connect with the audience over the virtual medium when you stand up. So I'm going to do that right now. We're going to get rid of the chair. I'm going to stand up. I have a motorized desk, so I'm able to just push the buttons and have the desk go up. Now you can see I can step back, I can step up, I can raise my arms, I can move around. It just feels a lot better. So that's tip number 1, stand up. Tip number 2, let's talk about camera alignment. Now I'm going to make a little adjustment. Right there we go. So when I stood up, I made sure that this is called the camera aperture, was lined directly up with the bridge of my nose right between my eyes. This gives you the sense that I'm looking directly at you from where this gives you the sense that I'm looking at you, that we're roughly at eye level. This seems to help people feel more comfortable. I love this. I get to be on eye level with everybody, but that's not the only reason to do it. The idea here is that you really want to make your viewer feel comfortable and connected with you. So that's tip number 2, camera alignment. Tip number 3, you may notice that I'm not just sitting here with my hands hanging down at my side or in my pockets or on the desk. I'm using my hands. I can reach out to you. I can emote to you. I can plead. I can push you away. I can just ask. You can do a lot with your hands. This is true whether you're on a real stage or you're on a virtual stage. I will tend to step back enough so that you can see my hands, so that it's a good view for you and you feel like there's movement and motion and I'm not just a talking head in a box. So that's tip number 3. Use your hands. Find out how to do that. It's not natural for everybody, and it took me a little time to get used to doing it, but now I just do it all the time, and I guess I talk with my hands. Tip number 4, speak up. In my case, for my studio, my microphone is about, I'm going to say 2 to 2.5 feet away. This is not ideal if you're doing a podcast or something like that. However, in my case, where I want to be able to kind of move around, use my keyboard, I've got some other gear on the table that I like to have access to, my mouse, my computer, all these things. It's good for me to have the microphone both up, out of the shot, and away. So I use a microphone boom, and then I make sure that I speak up. I try to talk from a little lower in my register and project out. And of course, the microphone has a pop filter so that you don't get a bunch of really weird, not pleasant sounds as we go through. So that's the next tip, is to speak up. Tip number 5, look directly into the camera aperture. This is an interesting tip, and I'm going to show you about this tip by showing you about this tip. So right now, I'm going to read to you a list of things. Thing 1, thing 2, thing 3. I'm going to play with my phone a little bit. Maybe I'm going to type some while I'm at it, and then I'm kind of going to just talk to you and stare off into space absent-mindedly. Do you feel connected with me right now? You probably don't. Why not? When you're using the camera, and this was one of the things that I really had to learn, is you have to look deep into the aperture. This is one of the reasons to make sure the camera is reasonably well aligned with your eye level, so that as you look into that aperture, the person on the other side feels like you are looking at them. If I put up this picture, you're going to feel like I'm looking deep into your soul. It's strange. This is the kind of thing you want, not the strange part, but you really want people to feel like you're looking at them. And this is actually a really magical thing about going digital and virtual as opposed to a real audience. When you're standing on a stage and you're presenting to hundreds or thousands of people, you're pretty lucky if you can look 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 people in the eye in a substantial way during the talk. Here, I could literally look 1 billion people directly in the eyes at the same time. You cannot do this in the real world. This is one of those special digital things that you get if you just learn how to use it. So that's tip number 5. Look directly into the camera aperture. That is your audience's eyes. Tip number 6, less slides. You will notice I am not throwing a bunch of slides at you. I am using my own voice, my body, maybe a logo, some interesting background in order to keep your attention but not make you super distracted. As hard as it is on a real stage to keep your audience engaged and off their phones, it is 10 times harder when they have the kids running around, the TV's on, the garbage trucks rolling by, the guy with the lawnmowers out front, the phone's ringing, the computer, WhatsApp, Facebook, everything's going. Just try to keep somebody's attention, for a substantial amount of time with all that going on around them. So you must think about that. You need to keep your audience engaged. All these tips together, use less slides. You need them sometimes. It's totally fine. Use them, but use them judiciously. Understand that they're there to talk to you and hear what you have to say and what you know, not what you're reading off of a slide. So please give it a shot. Use less slides. Oh, and a quick little story. The reason this came to me was I did a TEDx talk. And in the TEDx talk, as I was speaking to the speaking coach for the particular event, she said, "We don't want you to use slides." I said, "Well, I often use slides. In fact, I almost always use slides." And what I learned in that moment was my slides were effectively my teleprompter. And I was using them that way, and I was leaning on them too much. With that particular talk, I did not memorize my speech, but I did have to make sure that I was deeply ingrained with what I wanted to say. So using less slides, it does come with some caveats. You're not necessarily going to be able to give your talk the same way you've always done, but it can be really powerful. It can be an amazing connection with the audience, and that can even be true over virtual. Tip number 7, don't forget to smile. People feel it when you smile. If I'm all angry and I'm in your face, like right up in the camera, and I'm up here like this and looking all crazy, you're always one click away from being gone. Anybody can close the browser tab and you're out. So you know what? Be friendly, smile a little bit, laugh at yourself if you do silly things like I did on Wednesday. I forgot to set the volume on for the output channel for a live show. We did a 25-minute show. No volume output. That was fantastic. You know what? At the end, I have to give my co-host for the Digitized Live show, Kyle, a shout out. He didn't even get upset. He just looked at me and said, "Let's do it again." And I said, "You know what? You're right. Let's do it again." So the live show was an hour late, but we did it again and it was just fine. And that's the last piece is, don't forget to smile. Lots of weird things are going to happen. If you're doing pre-recordings, most of it you can edit it out. And we'll even be sharing some tools in future episodes. And that's tip number 7. Don't forget to smile. It makes all the difference in how your audience perceives you and feels. All right, well, those were the 7 tips. Stand up if you can, camera alignment, use your hands, speak up, look deep into the camera, use less slides, and don't forget to smile. I hope it helps you with your next virtual presentation. I really hope you're enjoying the work that Kyle and I are doing here at Digitized Live. If we can be of any assistance to you, let us know. Thank you.